bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mack and Mack, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And good morning, Birds fans. Oh, the countdown is on. The countdown is real. Football is just around the corner. Just 3 days to the start of the Eagles season. I'm pumped about it. Johnny Mack's pumped about it. I'm not sure that Jason Kelsey is pumped about it. But
I love Jason Kelsey, by the way, because I'm with him on last night, Jody. I do the night show with Tone, our producer, and these expectations are wacky, and I'm glad Jason Kelsey went out there with the expletives because he needed to do that. He needed to give everybody sort of that Jason Kelsey, because nobody listens to me. Everybody listens to Jason Kelsey. So thank you, Jason.
And that is Jason Kelsey's want. That is the way that he does look at it, should look at it. I got bad news for you, Jason. Everybody else is going to handle it differently. You can't depict others' expectations for them. You can put yours in the perspective you think they need to be. More power to you, big guy. But everybody's going to have their own way of handling expectations. His are a little more important than yours or mine because he's actually going to have an impact on the outcome of Eagle games played this year. Neither you nor I nor anybody streaming into us right now is. But it doesn't change the
no, it doesn't. But I think Jason's more concerned about people in that locker room buying into the hype. I think that's what he's talking about. He knows he can't control people's expectations, but when you start to hear some of the things, and I mentioned yesterday with Tone, I'm hearing Pro Bowl predictions for C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Kaiser White. We had it on the show with Seth Jr. I mean, come on. He's an improvement, but I mean, that's unrealistic. And that's what Jason's talking about. Jason's worried about his own locker room, and he knows certain guys, and luckily one of them is the quarterback. You're typically worried more about younger players than Jason, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon. They know it doesn't mean anything. But you're worried about younger players getting smoke blown up there, what, and sometimes they start buying into the little hype. It can go in the negative direction. Again, luckily the quarterback isn't like that. The quarterback's used to larger expectations than this because he played at Alabama and Oklahoma, where a loss is a national tragedy. So right. He understands it, and he again, he was asked about Jason's comments, and he again went straight to rat poison, and he always said, rat poison can be bad, it can be good. And right now it's good. The rat poison is good. In other words, people are being a little bit unrealistic and pumping up this team up to, a pretty ludicrous degree at this point. And that could be just as bad as people being really, really negative that people really focus on. Typically you hear rat poison, you think it's negative. In Alabama, it's usually positive. Oh, you're great. You're this, you're that, you're that. So he's used to both ends of it. And that's a really good part of it because he's a really young quarterback, really young player. But we know Jalen Hurts has got kind of, I always say he's got kind of an old soul. He's like a 35-year-old man in a 24-year-old's body. So that part of it's good. But yeah, I love Jason Kelce. I love him.
Most of Philadelphia does, but it would be the question I have. And I think some of what Jason did yesterday is because Jason hasn't been able to be out there on the field. I think it bothers him that he hasn't been able to be out there in what limited work the Eagles have done, to be part of it, to be able to lead by example, by the way you play on the field, which is the biggest leading you can do. Leading by cursing through members of the media. All right, if he thinks that's going to work for him, if he thinks that's going to get in the head of some of the younger Philadelphia Eagles, more power to him. I hope it does, but I hope that he also, and I have a lot of confidence in this, he's going to be able to do it himself, face to face with the guys when they're in the room, when they're getting changed, when they're working out, when they're practicing, when they're on the plane to Detroit. I hope he can do a lot of the same things that it seemed that he was doing through the media yesterday.
I think he's smart. He even said at the very end, I hope it goes viral, because it's a different generation, even from Jason coming in and especially through the pandemic. Yesterday was the first time we were in the locker room since January 6, 2019. And, you know, you got a whole group of players who didn't know we were allowed in the locker room, who aren't used to dealing with any of that, who aren't used to dealing with their own teammates who are doing it virtually at times there. It's become a different world, and everybody lives, especially younger people, everybody lives through their phones and everybody does things that way. And he's hoping they see the clip and it goes viral, and it probably will, at least locally. I think he's smart, but as far as the on the field, well, you know, he's doing that. You know, he's doing the on the field stuff. You know, he's not afraid to tell people. He just knows that maybe that doesn't land the way it used to land. And I think he's brilliant in the fact that he tries to create these little moments. And it gives you an indication. Now, Jason's made so much money, he probably doesn't want to go into coaching, but if he ever wanted to go into coaching, he'd be a great coach. He understands you got to change things. You got to go about things different way for different groups of people. And I think, you know, I'm tired of giving accolades to Jason Kelce, but it's tough not to. I mean, he's great. He's great on the field. He's great off the field. He's great in sort of a motivational way. He's great in a leadership way. You know, when they voted for captains, I forget who said it. You know, the quarterback's going to be a captain for the most part, unless he's a rookie, first-time starter, something like that. Then maybe not.
Which, by the way, was Hurts a captain last year?
Yes, he was a captain last year. But he's a little bit different because he is a leader. You know, it's, you know, typically, even if you're not a leader, is what I'm trying to say, they're going to make you a captain as a quarterback. The coach, even if he has to, is going to make you a captain unless it's a rookie first-year guy. And then they're like, well, that's a rookie. It's a first-year guy. But Jalen is a natural leader anyway. In the case of Kelce, I'm trying to remember the player. It was Jordan Mailata. He was like, of course, Kelce's a captain. I mean, there's no, you know, I don't know the voting, but if it wasn't unanimous, I think Jason Babin snuck in the locker room because that seems to be the only person who doesn't like Jason Kelce. So, you know, it is what it is.
And one of the worst kept secrets was actually revealed yesterday. Jason Kelce's going to start week 1. I think 99.9, about as unanimous as Jason Kelce for captain would be, was the knowledge that he was going to be ready to go for week 1. Even if he wasn't actually going to be ready to go for week 1, he's going to be ready to go for week number 1. So he was full practice, full participant yesterday. And yes, he will be the starting center when the Eagles take the field against the Detroit Lions, which is now just 3 days away. And we're going to get a Lion perspective a little later in the show. Tim Twentyman, who covers the Lions for DetroitLions.com. I had Timmy on my national radio show do my Lions preview for me. He's got a great grasp of what's going on with the Lions. He's going to jump aboard in hour number 2. And my bud Glennie McNow is going to join us coming up in about 10 minutes from now. The host of Eagles pregame show on their radio network, their flagship station, WIP. And we're going to get, sorry, Jason Kelsey, his expectations of this upcoming season. Because despite Jason not wanting to talk about it and worrying his teammates are getting a little too high on themselves and what members of the media and or Eagle Nations are starting to say, that's what they're going to do it in the 31 other cities in the National Football League too, Jace. This is not just a Philly thing. This is a National Football League thing. Everybody's got expectations before the season starts.
Oh, everybody's expected to win. And Detroit's a 3-win team, right? And they're going to have expectations. But what he's honing down on, 9-8 team going to the Super Bowl. I think my co-host bet on the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl.
That would be correct.
He's boiling down on, the Pro Bowl, according to some people, is going to be the AFC versus the Eagles. But it can't be the AFC versus the Eagles because the Eagles will be in the Super Bowl. So they'll have to scratch all their Pro Bowl players. But they're not going to have to name anybody from any other team. He's just talking about the unrealistic expectation. Or the skipping steps part of it, because the hope is, as he said, the hope is we make the Super Bowl. Obviously, that's the goal. Obviously, that's what he wants to do. And maybe the ceiling is there, but you got to work every day. That's all he's trying to say. Nobody's granting you a Super Bowl spot. You either go out and earn it, or you're not going to make the Super Bowl. That's all Jason Kelsey's trying to say. But yeah, there's expectations in every city, and probably unrealistic expectations in every city. But you've been around.
So what is Jason getting at?
Because
if it's 32 for 32 in the National Football League, that there are expectations, and more often than not, if not 32 for 32, overly optimistic expectations, what's the big deal?
At least very early. Well, the big deal is because Jason's been around for a long time. You've been around longer than him covering this football team. You know the difference from year to year to year. It's always a little bit more than it should be. And Jason said a couple weeks ago to us, the media, he said, every time you guys say we're going to be good, we stink. And every time you guys say we're going to stink, we're good. And he said that a couple weeks ago. So it does vary, Jody. It does. There is a scale, and the scale seems to be where here's how I judge it, because I get killed for being a hater for picking this team to win 11 games and winning the NFC East. That's a
little short of hating, Johnny Mack.
Yes,
I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, that to me tells me personally that the scale is tipped a little bit too far in one way. And I think that's what Jason's talking about. He's not talking about expectations. Everybody has expectations. You shouldn't be playing if you don't have expectations. He's talking about that kind of, and he's seen it before. He's seen it before, and things went in a negative direction. He's trying to bend that off as the best that he can as a team leader. And to be honest, he probably can't, but he's out there trying. So, I give him credit for that.
Well, as I said, everybody's got their own individual expectations, and there are some people in this town, fans, media members, even players, whose expectations are predictable because they're always the same. Eagles going to win the Super Bowl every single year. Well, then, you smile, you laugh, and you move on from that because it has nothing to do with the realistic hopes of the team and or analysis of what kind of roster they have or their coaching staff or their quarterback. No, they just, because they're the Eagles, they're supposed to win the Super Bowl every single year. So you move on from that pretty quickly. I think high expectations for this team are not outrageous this year. I really do believe that. And in part, that's because there isn't any other real world beater in the NFC this year. That's my analysis. If that makes me a rah-rah, get the Eagle colored blinders off, Jody Mack. I'm going to fight that. I'm going to refute that. I just don't love anybody else in the NFC. So if not the Eagles, then who?
The Eagles could, maybe, as I said, maybe that ceiling is there because of the NFC. But that's where I think 11 wins in an NFC East title is high expectations. It is very high expectations. So maybe that's where we kind of differ. The ceiling's there. The ceiling for this team to maybe catch a bolt of lightning is potentially there. But that's the ceiling. The floor exists too. And what's the floor? The
floor is injuries.
The floor is always injuries.
If a couple key guys get injured, their season could be spit out of luck real fast.
Yeah, the floor is always injuries in the NFL. If you get every team, if you get the wrong injuries at the wrong positions at the right times, you're in trouble. And that's every NFL team. But what just for sake of argument, and I see Glenn's in the green room, so we got to get the break, but I'll just throw this to you before the break. What's the floor if they're relatively healthy? In other words, what's the floor if they're just not as good as most people think they are? But their players play. What's that floor? I think that floor is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's 10 wins. I think it's
9-10 wins. I do think, I do think, CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's better than what they had, and that'll probably really help them as the season goes on. I'm not sure it's going to help them early. Kaiser White, better than what they had, but, forget about the Chargers. There were 30 other teams that could have signed Kaiser White or could have, done the opportunity. He got the contract he got. He's better than what the Eagles had. I'm a big TJ Edwards fan. Well, what if I'm wrong and everybody else is right? And TJ can't run and TJ can't cover anybody. Marcus Epps. People act like he's a constant now. He's a foundation. Jonathan Gannon went through, I think, 15 questions the other. He didn't get one question about Marcus Epps because nobody questions Marcus Epps. But I'm like, Epps, he's another guy I like personally. Would it stun you if he didn't perform up to?
No, not enough of a track record to say it. You're right. There are a couple guys like that on this roster, but maybe I'm looking at the glass as half full here to start the year, but I'm not having it overflow where I think that I'm looking at a team that's 8-9, 9-8, and going, oh my God, they got to win 13 games. That's outrageous. And I think those that are going to those levels that Jason Kelce may have been referring to yesterday are not all that great. I think Jason did it for a purpose more than he really believes that the expectations are not overstated here in Philadelphia. All right, Jody McDonald and John McMullen. We're going to add another Mack to the mix. Glenn Mack, now host of the Eagles pregame show on their radio network and their flagship station, WIP, is going to jump aboard with us next. What are the Mack man's expectations?
My wife was in an accident that changed our lives forever. She was in rehabilitation for years. She had to learn to walk again. She couldn't take care of herself. We couldn't afford a nurse. We were running out of options. One conversation with Pond Lee Hockey changed everything. They understood what we were going through and immediately helped us navigate the legal process. We can't thank them enough.
Pond Lee Hockey. Tell us your story.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
It's the #1 news at 10 p.m. Action News on PHL 17. Join Shari Williams, Gray Hall, Deuces Rogers, and meteorologist Adam Joseph for all the big stories at a time that's right for you. Action News at 10 p.m. on PHL 17.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
You got your Mack guys ×2. Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and Glenn Mack now. So we got 3 Macks in attendance to talk about the start of the season being just 3 days away. Glenn, I don't know about you. I think Jason Kelce was talking directly to me yesterday when he said, bleep expectations. We just need to be ready for the season because I picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl this year. Was he talking about you two?
Super Bowl, the best case situation. I am not predicting Super Bowl as you are, and I admire you, Jody. You are driving more bandwagons these days than the head of an Uber company. But I think they are a team that's going to go 12-5, and I heard you guys right before I went to break. Obviously, the one thing you always throw in the NFL is injuries, which can kill a team. But if they stay relatively healthy, 12-5, win the division, host a home game, win at least one playoff game. That's my expectation.
And that's not a bad one. I got 11 wins and an NFC East title, Glenn, but evidently I'm a hater because that is low expectations. So I was talking, you probably heard us talking there. If they stay relatively healthy and there's not these massive injuries, because that can affect every NFL team, as you mentioned, what do you think the floor is for this team if things don't work out well? How negative could it go?
Oh, I think the floor is still 7 wins. I think, I know we'll discuss the specifics. I think that if the defensive coordinator is not good, and I don't know if he's good, and all of these parts that they brought in don't mesh on defense, and if Hurts doesn't develop, as I hope and believe he will, they could still be an under 500 team. I think the floor is still, it's still down low.
Yeah, that's a little pessimistic for me, but that's okay. That's yours, Mac.
But that's not what I'm predicting. I'm just saying
no.
Right.
Yes.
You're just saying it could be worst case scenario. Well, shit. Maybe they could only win 5 games. If you want to go the worst of the worst case scenario, none of us really know. That's why we do shows like this, is to generate some fun opinions. But I hear you on Gannon. A couple of things that the Eagles didn't do last year was create turnovers. The biggest knock against you, Gannon, we had Seth Joyner on the other day, needs to be more aggressive, not aggressive enough. That is almost always tied to blitzing. You're aggressive if you blitz, which is, there's something to it, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Getting turnovers usually shows aggression, and the Eagles were one of the worst in the National Football League last year at creating turnovers. do you think Gannon will find a way? It's very difficult to game plan turnovers. Yeah, right down on a piece of paper. Yeah. Let's get turnovers. It doesn't really work that way, but will the Eagles be a team that will be able to cause more turnovers this year?
Before I answer that, I just want to digress and say I got to get myself a new background because I'm looking at you two guys there living large.
Yeah,
I'm sitting
on the
here
beach
in my office at home.
Early.
Bare wall.
Nice day,
yeah.
Glenn.
Yeah. So I think that blitzing helps, and I think he will blitz more. I think that most of turnovers, as any coach will tell you, comes from pressure. And you'd like to believe they can get pressure from their front line without too much blitzing. I think they'll be better at it. I think we're going to have to see some things. Brandon Graham, is he going to come back healthy? Fletcher Cox, does he rebound and give you one more good year? Is Josh Sweat going to develop as they paid him to? And how does Hassan Reddick fit the scheme? If the answer to 3 of those 4s turns out to be positive, you're going to get the pass rush you didn't get last year, and then you will get those turnovers.
Yeah, Reddick is the guy to me, Glenn, because for a couple reasons. One, we've been talking about expectations. So the expectations for him are going to be huge because of the contract, because he comes in, Temple guy, Philly native coming home, double-digit sack guy. This team hasn't had a double-digit sack guy on the edge since Connor Barwin. That's how far we got to go back. But he's a very unique player as well. He's undersized. If you line him up at defensive end, that could be an issue, especially when you get some of these offensive tackles in the league and people start going downhill. However, if you utilize him correctly, and that's where I think it comes in with Jonathan Gannon, Jeremiah Washburn, all of a sudden he can be this dominating pass rushing player. Is he the guy? Is he sort of the linchpin of this entire defense when you think about it from that perspective?
Well, from the perspective you just put up there, yes, because I just gave a whole thing about pressure, and he would be expected to lead the team in sacks. So that leads to that conclusion. Here's what we don't know, and this is the amazing thing as we are now 3 days before the season. What kind of defense are they going to play? Is it going to be a 3-4, a 4-3, a hybrid? Are they going to, are they going to blitz? What are they going to do? What's the scheme? How many linebackers? Are they going to use 2 linebackers? Will they sometimes use 3? Because we saw nothing in the preseason, and because going to training camp is really what you can see now in training camp with what you were able to see 20 years ago is a fraction. So Jonathan Gannon accumulated all these great cards in the offseason, right? I mean, up to now, up to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who just came in, and we'll see when and how. But they got Bradbury, and they got this linebacker, and they drafted Jonathan Davis, and they drafted Nakobe Dean, and they added all these pieces in the offseason. And he's got this whole array of cards, and we don't know how he plans to use his hand. So that's the biggest mystery to me, and that's the biggest determinant in how good or bad they'll be. Most of the offense we know, right? We'll see how Hurts develops, but we know the names and the faces. I mean, they got A.J. Brown, but we know A.J. Brown. We know what he's going to do, I think. But the defense is a coordinator who last year, and I'll buy that, he was very limited in how he could scheme because of the lack of talent, so he played it vanilla. Now he has the opportunity to do a lot, but I don't know what it's a mystery.
Glenn, it's part of the state secret program that is the Philadelphia
Eagles. Don't even get me started on that.
They want that competitive advantage anywhere they can get it by keeping things under wraps.
Right, and the coach
the Detroit Lions.
Right.
Here's the secret for the Detroit Lions. The Eagles are coming to town, and some part of their uniform is going to be green. We don't know what green, whether it's going to be pants or jersey, but part of it's going to be green. I can confirm that for the Lions in case they're lost at the who's showing up on Sunday.
I know. I mean, he was asked yesterday in his news, or how's Miles Sanders look or something. He said, like, well, you'll learn. It's like,
yeah. And by the way, Glenn, 10 minutes later we learned.
Right.
Because then we're out on the practice field. And Miles was dancing with Jalen Hurts, and we said, oh, he's fine. Why can't the head coach tell us that 10 minutes earlier? I don't know. We're going to have Tim 20 minutes on from DetroitLions.com a little bit later. I'm going to have to tell poor Tim, oh, the Eagles are watching your coverage. They're so concerned.
Oh, yeah. They're watching the Jared Goff news conferences for tips. I heard
they
that.
watch everything, Glenn.
Yeah,
they watch everything. They watch Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Yeah.
But I could tell you who the backup left tackle. The backup left tackle is going to be on game day, but then they'd kill me, and they would shut practice down to every other reporter. So they basically blackmail us to not report. I can tell you who the kick returner and the punt returner are going to be, but I can't. I can't do it on the air because I'll shut down the whole system.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
absurd.
And that's the NFL has switched to that. I mean, I don't know who the first was. Obviously, Belichick was huge in pushing it that way. Andy was that way, right, John? I mean, Andy wouldn't tell you anything.
Well, Andy was a little bit different. Andy's a little bit old school in the fact that he would let you watch the entire practice back in the now.
Yeah,
now they don't even about 10 minutes. But so there would be at least a give and take with Andy, and you would have a lot more background with Andy. So you'd be able to tell people what was going on in sort of a roundabout way.
Yeah,
and Andy would be fine with that. So, but you're right. I mean, everybody is very secretive. And you mentioned what defense they're going to play. They're playing Vic Fangio's defense. I tell Jody all the time, that's what they're playing. And that's the ironic thing to me. Everybody knows what they're doing. And this is not just the Eagles, every other team, but they all act like it's CIA level.
Okay. But John, even within that, how much is Nakobe Dean going to play this year? I don't know.
Well, that stuff is legit.
Right. Is Jordan Davis going to play 15 plays a game, 30 plays a game, somewhere in between? It's like they have all these pieces that we have never seen together that I'm fascinated to watch how they mesh.
No, that part is the interesting part. And the execution. I mean, that's what it comes down to. The ironic thing to me is coaches will tell you all the time. And I always gave Jimmy Johnson a ton of credit because Jimmy obviously won a bunch of Super Bowls, and then not a bunch, but we all know what happened with Jerry Jones after, and then Barry Switzer came in, won another with his team. But, then when he wrote his book, he said, we had 3 running plays. Everybody knew what we were doing. We had Larry Allen, Eric Williams, Emmitt Smith. Yeah. Stop it. Nobody could stop it. So execution is a bigger part of it than the actual scheme. But man, this new breed of coaches, they think, oof, and they're all running the same thing. RPO.
And it is, and I don't know how sidetracked we're getting off what you guys want to talk about it, because it is, they don't need you. They don't need us. They don't need the media. They got the media. They don't have to sell at all. They're the highest rated thing in the world, and they can do it without telling John McMullen who's playing when and where.
That is true.
But yesterday, Jason Kelsey decided he needed the media to get a message out to his teammates that we better not get too comfortable here. Don't listen to everything you hear via the media and fans. Forget that. Listen to me. And he used the media to get that message out there to his teammates. So they may not need us as much as they once did, but when they find it advantageous to have the media around and use them, readily available. Good. Thank you very much.
And we'll say it, we'll read it, we'll report it. Sure we will.
Yeah, and again, that part of it I don't have as much as an issue with the fact that I think they believe. I think the coaches believe it. So now that we're on the coaches, I want to stick there with you, Glenn. You mentioned Jonathan Gannon. I do think there's this narrative we talked about the floor. Like if Gannon doesn't live up to his hype, getting 3 head coaching interviews, he's well regarded around the league. Then the obvious part of the offense, if Jalen Hurts doesn't live up to the expected development, Nick seems to be skating under the radar. Everybody's cool with Nick. Does that surprise you a little bit? Like everybody's worried about Gannon, they're worried about Hurts, but Nick
I think people are confident about Nick because of the way the team came together in the second half of the year, and because I think Nick showed flexibility. And you can debate whether giving away the play calling was a good idea or not, but I think, deciding after that horrible Dallas game where they ran the ball, 4 or 5 times, that they have to change it, changing on the fly, making it work. It was a team that was 2-5 and won 8 of its next 10 games. And my math may be wrong, but something like that. I think that gave Nick a lot of credential in this town. So I think people feel pretty good about him now. If they start out slowly again, if they lose to the Lions, as Jody knows over the years, WIP will explode.
Yeah.
But if they start out slowly, they have a pretty beneficial schedule early. If they start out 2-3, Nick will feel all of the heat. But I think going in, people like the way he grew last year and feel good about it.
Let me ask you about a guy who should be an important player for the Philadelphia Eagles. We had Marcus Hayes on yesterday, and we got a field of the actual on-play preparation, what the Eagles are going to do, and talk more about the powers that be. And he made several references on how Jeff Lurie influences Howie Roseman and how Howie Roseman then interacts with the coach. Do you think Jeff Lurie, his involvement on a day-to-day basis, his ability to make things happen within the organization, do you think it's more in season, off season, exactly the same, 365 days a year? How do you think Jeff Lurie impacts what happens on the field with the Philadelphia Eagles once the season starts?
I think it's pretty minimal. I know the story came out. The famous story about when they beat the Packers that time. Which was a really nice win, but he was upset that they didn't throw the ball. And I'd love to know the details of that story, because I give Lurie credit for being smarter than throwing a tizzy after a win regardless. But he may have weighed in. I think Lurie weighs in during the season. I think because he's the owner, obviously everybody gives him a lot of respect. I think evidence over how many years now? 90, we bought the team. 94, he bought the team. So we're going on almost 30 years.
30, yeah.
Yeah, I think evidence is that Jeff Lurie is pretty much a hands-off owner, because if we have 1 or 2 episodes over 30 years, we really don't have a whole lot to go on.
It's been far more good than bad. But, it wasn't after the game, Glenn. It was a Tuesday meeting. It was a scheduled meeting with all the heads of the organization that they typically had. And Doug did get a little bit upset that he was getting questioned about upsetting Green Bay, but it wasn't like he went up to him and screamed at him after the game.
Exactly.
Throw the football. Yeah.
Right. And that story, the legend of that story grew.
Yeah.
I think people and people who want to, dislike the owner, which is a natural instinct among fans in every sport, use that as evidence of, see, look what he's doing.
Yeah. So it is a little bit different. But the one part where I do see, and by the way, I think Jeffrey is right in this. Jeffrey is on record numerous times. He thinks the way you can be consistently successful in this league in the modern era is to be a high octane passing offense. It just makes it easier if you can throw the football well and consistently. And as I said, I think he's 100% right. However, the current team as it's constructed has a different type of quarterback who I think is a good player, but I think he's a unique player. And I think if you try to make him into Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, I think you're doing Jalen Hurts a disservice. If the Eagles try to make him a drop back passer, is that a disservice to Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I think you're right. You described a couple guys who he will never be, and there are more guys who he will never be. I don't know about unique. We've seen this style of quarterback before, and we've seen it work. He's got his pluses and minuses. He's a very elusive player. I think he's a smart player. I don't want to go over all the things that we've always discussed. He needs to work on both his accuracy and knowing when to release the ball. My biggest issue with him last year is in the NFL, when a receiver breaks open, he's not going to be open for long. You got to throw it right then. And, we'd look downfield and see separation, and he's holding the ball. So that's the kind of thing I think he can learn. That experience will help you with that. Knowing when to release the ball is something you can pick up. You don't want to make him what he's not. You also know that getting a guy away from the instinct of running too early is going to help the team. I'm not sure the question I'm answering, but I will say this. I think Jalen Hurts will never be one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the NFL. I do think he is a guy who could probably be somewhere in the 9 to 11 rank of quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it's all speculative, I know.
Yeah.
But with a really good team, you can win with that guy.
All right, G-Mac, one of my favorite things, you know this because I used to do it with you back in the 90s, the old hypothetical question. Eagles win their first week in Detroit. Not as big a blowout as maybe Jody McDonald thinks, double digits, blah, blah, blah. They find a way to win, grind out a 17-13 win. Defense plays well. Offense doesn't do a lot. They throw the ball a lot. Jalen Hurts doesn't complete 60% of his pass, but they win. And they come back the next week against the Vikings. Oh, by the way, Vikings are going to score some points. Vikings are going to come in here and throw the ball around. Jefferson's going to just please tell me it's not Jalen Reagor who makes a big play. But the Vikings are going to score some points, and the Eagles find a way to win. Win 27-24. And again, they don't really throw it all that well. Defense gets a touch on it. They're 2-0, but the offense hasn't looked great. But they've been throwing it plenty. Will the hue and cry be, let's get back to running the football? That's how we move the ball. We got the best offensive line in the National Football League. Why are we not running the football? Or will 2-0 eyewash everything?
2-0 is 2-0. However, are you talking the hue and cry among people who call our show?
Yes.
Okay.
The Eagle Nation.
I used to work with a guy named Jody McDonald, who I think you're the guy who used to say this most of the time. Finding the wart on Cindy Crawford. The mole, excuse me, not the wart. The mole on Cindy Crawford. I think that's something you used to say to me.
I may have used that phrase once.
And to me, that would be an example of that. If you're 2-0,
if you're 2-0,
everything entirely come together. You got 15 more games to get it together. You're 2-0. It'll be okay. But yes, will Neil from the Northeast call into blather? Probably. And Jody, guess what? I'll let you handle that one because you did one of those a couple of weeks ago that was brilliant, and it with a fan who was overly critical, and so I'm going to just Jody, all yours.
That's right. All right. I'll handle that one.
Yeah, 2-0 is 2-0. I agree with Glenn. You're going to be fine as long as you win games. The question is now. Here's one I'll throw at you, Glenn and Jody. We got to talk to Dan Campbell a little bit yesterday on our conference call. And, if you guys, I know you have, Jody. I don't know if you have, Glenn, if you've watched Hard Knocks at all.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's got kind of an old school vibe. So they've been going about their summer work in a different way. They're a lot more physical than the Eagles. They do it on purpose. The Eagles, they're about getting to week one as healthy as possible. And by the way, here's week one. We had Andre Dillard's injury, but pretty much 52 out of the 53 players scheduled to be on that roster were at least practicing in a limited fashion. So it worked. They're here. They're relatively healthy. But if they show up in Detroit against a team that they're supposed to beat, as Jody said, by double digits, they're supposed to wax. They beat them 44-6 last year, and they lay an egg. Are people going to jump on that? Oh, Dan Campbell's physical. They're ready to play. The Eagles didn't prepare.
By people, do you mean the local fan base?
Yes.
The local fan base already has a foot and four toes in that pool. Yeah. I mean, people, the preseason games as the Eagles play them are a huge waste of time. Other than like, okay, this is the 52nd and 53rd guy on the roster. Who cares? It's a huge snooze fest for fans who want to see football. They want to see their guys. They saw them for one series. So I think fans, and particularly those who have watched Hard Knocks with Dan Campbell chewing kneecaps and all that, listen, I want that.
He's a Philadelphia guy. They would love Dan Campbell. Yeah.
But I've been bored since this thing began in July. And I know you guys have too. And so, hey, if the Lions win this thing, and they win it because they're a physical, more prepared team, and their top players are more in sync, I'll jump on that. I got a foot and three toes in that pool.
Here's my thoughts on the way that the Eagles are prepared for this season. John's right. We get to the opening game, and backup left tackle got hurt a couple of days before the season starts, but everybody else is supposed to be healthy. Oh, the Eagles are up at the half. But the only thing that matters is the final score. So I'm going to wait 2 more weeks when they're playing other teams that may have been more physical and doing more physical preparation for. And if they've got that same clean roster 2 weeks in with next to no injury, then I'll go, damn, they're just smarter than everybody else. They got this thing figured out. But if we see a whole bunch of injuries crap up over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to go, wow, it was really important that they were healthy before they kicked off the first game. It will have meant zippity-doo-dah. So let's wait 2 weeks before we crown them champs of how to prepare properly for the start of a season.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I understand the logic of this whole thing. Of the most important thing is not to get your guys hurt. But the flip side of that is, okay, then what's the point of all of these preseason games? Then why are we all wasting our time? Just do these joint practices.
Funny, that. They bundled the tickets.
Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah, exactly. They sell tickets and they sell them to the networks. And people watch them.
I know. It's amazing. And the Eagles basically admit, by the way they handle joint practices, Nick's very honest. We're going to get all our work with the first team guys in during practice, and the game is going to be for as you mentioned, those back end roster guys trying to make those last 2 or 3 roster spots.
Yeah. And by reports, they, what are they now over his years? 7-1, I guess one got canceled, 6-1 in joint practices. So,
yeah. They finally lost one to
go.
Miami. Yeah.
The parade's coming down City Line Avenue any day now.
I was expecting the banner to be raised, the new normal, as Doug put. First time in NovaCare since January 6, 2019 yesterday, Glenn. We got to go in the locker room. And it was interesting, but I was looking for that. I was looking for those Nick Sirianni sort of accoutrements to the facility because all the coaches try to do something. They have some video boards, but it was really understated.
They got a rock, paper, scissors ring there?
Yeah, well, they do have a basketball hoop in the auditorium, which I'm sure you guys have seen. We all tweet stuff. So he is that competitive guy. I go back to Dan Campbell, and I said he's a Philly guy, and Philadelphia fans would love him because of his mentality. But would he be allowed to do? Like, I think Nick Sirianni, I say this all the time, Nick's very competitive. If we're up to Nick Sirianni, he wouldn't be giving up practice time. This is an organizational decision. So if they hired Dan Campbell with all his biting kneecaps, he'd be forced to do the same thing.
I imagine so. I think this comes from Roseman down. But I imagine that when you hire a coach, all of these things are part of the interview process, and the coach is kind of on board from the start, right? So I would think that Nick agrees with it in theory because you hire a coach who's in sync with your thought process.
The last coach we had, I think, started to waver, and it may have cost him his job. Yeah. They were in sync when he was hired. Yeah. They were in sync when they won the Super Bowl. And then Doug decided, maybe I'm going to flex my muscles a little bit. Right, exactly. And before you knew it, he was out the door.
Right. Doug had his Super Bowl ring that he could flash and say, hey, I won this. You got to listen to me more. And he's right. He did earn that.
Yeah, but maybe he overplayed his hand out the door.
Well, clearly. Now he's in Jacksonville. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, we'll see him week 4. All right, G-Mac, I got to ask you about one of the more intriguing players coming into the season for me, see if it's the same for you. And that's Miles Sanders. Again, we need to plug him into the overall scheme of things. If we believe the Eagles are going to try and throw the ball more this year, that means they're going to run it less, which means Miles may be getting less carries, but his average per carry last year was pretty damn good, 5.5, as good as it was in the National Football League. He's in the last year of a contract, looking to get another contract going forward. Don't know what the entire National Football League thinks about paying running back these days. How's it going to shake out for Miles Sanders? Assuming now, oh my God, this is probably the biggest assumption I'll make all day. His health, which is almost never there. But assuming relative health for Miles Sanders, what kind of year do you think he's going to have?
Jody, write this down because you and I can review this at the end of the season on our show on Sunday, okay? 150 carries, 750 yards, 6 touchdowns.
6?
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's due to get in there, you know. 30 to 35 catches for 300 yards and another 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Boy, I'm going the over on that yardage. I think it all depends on health. If Miles is out there.
Yeah, well, I'm including missing 2 games.
As well you should. Yes.
Yeah. I'll end it here with you at Real Glenn Mack now.
Yeah, I got one thing I got to plug. So give me a minute to plug something.
We'll be plugged. I'm going to guess it's the Maryland Mike thing, but I'll let you plug that. Obviously, listen to him and Jody on WIP on the weekends. But Glenn, Kenny Gainwell, since Jody went down the Miles Sanders route, he did not have a great summer. And I was expecting big things from Kenny Gainwell. Are you concerned at all about that depth in the backfield? Because
well, that's maybe they were, which is why they made the move to pick up the kid from San Francisco the other day.
Yeah, Trey Sermon.
I mean, that would speak to that. I didn't go to practice as you went to practice, so I didn't see Gainwell, but the reports I read and heard, as yours were, was that he didn't make the jump that was anticipated. Again, let's see how the season plays out. I would love to believe he's going to be the primary pass catching back out of the backfield and get 50 to 60 catches and be part of the offense that way. Am I concerned about the depth? I think I like Boston Scott more than a lot of people do. Every time they use him, to me, he seems to do well. I know it's limited. I think that you have enough talent at receiver and tight end. And I think you have a quarterback who can run. So doesn't worry me as much as it might on other teams. If the biggest concern is that you don't have a second and third running back who can carry you, that's okay. You also have a great line that can gain yards for anybody.
Yeah, I like both Boston Scott and Sermon. I like the pickup. So if Gainwell doesn't take a step forward, I don't think it'll actually hurt the Eagles all that badly. All right, Glenn, in addition to Mike Sielski on Saturdays, Jody McDonald on Sundays, Eagle pregame responsibilities, basically having a different beer to drink every day of the year, 365. What else you got going?
So and thank you for giving me a moment to do this. I am one of the partners in Conshohocken Brewing Company, and we're releasing a charity beer next Wednesday, and it's going to be called Merrill and Mike. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick are both part of this endeavor. The money goes to First Tee, not Golden Tee. That was an old video game. First Tee of Greater Philadelphia, which brings golf to disadvantaged kids and kids who might not get the chance, and provides them with equipment and time and lessons. And it's really a nice charity. We have an event at our place, Puddler's Kitchen and Tap in Bridgeport, which coincides with the release next Wednesday from 6 to 8:30. Merrill and Mike will be there. Bernie Perrant is going to come auction a jersey right off his back. Fran Dunphy and Martelli are going to auction lunch with somebody. Jody Mack and I are going to do, I know you're going to be busy, Jody. If you can make it, great. But I'm going to auction off an evening of drinking beers with Jody and me. And Jody, whatever style you want, we have it. I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm old school. I like my buds, but on that night, I'll try whatever you put.
Okay.
In front of
And
me.
One other thing that we are going to auction off. I just got this last night. I hold in my hand the original draft reports on every current Eagle on yellow legal pads.
Oh, wow.
Done by Ray Dinger. And he gave me all of these. And some lucky winner is going to. I'm looking at the original Jalen Hurts draft report from Ray, and we're going to auction these off along with some other really nice items. But mostly, people come out, meet Merrill and Mike and Bernie, and try the beer. Again, Merrill and Mike beer for a good charity. It is at our place, Puddler's Kitchen and Tap, which is at 3 DeKalb Street in Bridgeport. This coming Wednesday from 6 to 8:30.
G-Mac, I will not be with you on Sunday because you're going to be busy doing the Eagles pregame show.
Next week.
You and I will do it on week number 2 when the Eagles are not playing on a Sunday at 1 o'clock. Always a pleasure, bud, whether it's on the radio or here with us on Birds 365. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, John. See you
Thanks,
guys.
Glenn.
Glenn Mack now, host of the Eagles pregame show on their radio network here with us on Birds 365. All right, McDonald and McMullen coming back. We'll give the Lions their due in hour number 2. Tim Twentyman from DetroitLions.com is going to hop aboard. Johnny Mack and I did the whole first hour, and we didn't even discuss the major movement on the Eagles practice squad yesterday. Changes of plenty.
Big news.
Don't know if it's moving the needle, but we'll break it down for you next here on Birds 365.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pondley Hockey doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pondley Hockey a call.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Mack and Mack guys here on Birds 365. Yes, the countdown is well on, just 3 days until the game getting underway. And we will go behind enemy lines next hour. Tim Twentyman, who covers the Lions for the DetroitLions.com, going to hop aboard, jump in with us. All right, Johnny Mack, we've talked a lot about expectations. We're going to do it today. We're going to do it tomorrow as well before the season gets underway. But the Eagles actually made some moves yesterday. They made one move that left the move open for them yet to make. And, of course, they're not going to tell you, me, or anybody else. So I'm going to ask you to speculate on who's going to be filling in for Mr. Dillard's spot on the roster. But we got to build up to that. Major practice squad moves yesterday. Reed Sinnett, we hardly knew ye. No longer a Philadelphia Eagle, They flipped a couple practice squad spots. No issues for me, because that's what the practice squad is for, is to have balance behind your actual 53-man roster. And the Eagles saw a little bit of an imbalance. What do you think of the practice squad juggling and shifting?
Before I get into that, I want to mention, because Field Yates just reported, and Field, has a direct line to the NFLPA database. So it's funny because and how Field worded it, and it's correctly right. It's true. In a near annual rites of passage, the Eagles have restructured the contract of Lane Johnson. So Howie Roseman converted $5.88 million of Johnson's base salary and $2.715 million of Jake Elliott's base salary into signing bonuses, so they'll get the money up front. What that does is create $6.9 million, so nearly $7 million in cap space immediately for Howie Roseman. So that's a typical Howie Roseman move, and he does it on the eve of the regular season. As for the practice squad, as you mentioned,
hold on. Since you brought that up, now I got to ask you about it. Why? Usually you do something that for a reason, for a purpose, so you have the flexibility and the cash available to be able to do something. What do you think Howie Roseman's trying to do?
Not necessarily. Howie's always thinking in two. Really, with Howie, it's usually three-year increments. So, a lot of people think when you create space, it's for immediacy, but you always want to have. The Eagles they want to have probably 15, somewhere in that range, a cushion in case they need to do something. Could be a trade down the road at the trade deadline. They want to have that flexibility. So he's been doing this kind of stuff for years. It doesn't necessarily indicate, they're going to go out and trade for, I don't know, who you want to throw out there, Jesse Bates or whatever. It doesn't always indicate something immediate. Now, it could be an extension. We talked about extensions yesterday on the show.
Right.
But he's always working in 2-3 year increments as a whole. And as Field said, with Lane, it's become an annual thing. He gets his money up front, and they kind of shift money around that way. And everybody's happy. And most contracts, by the way, everybody thinks about, the player has to approve it. Usually it's written in now. Now they just can do it whenever they want to do it. And players are happy anyway, because they get all their money up front. But so anyway, I wanted to let people in on that. But with the practice squad, and now that it's 16, even more so, you see this around the league. You have constant churn on the back end of the on the practice squad roster. And with the kid from the Jets, they signed him before they got Trey Sermon at running back. So, they probably didn't need that redundancy. We talked about Reed Sinnett. Would he be back? Why do you need 4 quarterbacks now that Ian Book is here? They probably got to look at Ian Book and said, well, I'm not a huge fan. Nice kid. Got to meet him yesterday. I don't know what the ceiling is, but it's probably higher than Reed Sinnett. So, that's where the Eagles are with that. They don't need a 4th quarterback. They do need some backup tight end help. So, the kid from New England, he was a 3rd-round pick. Didn't work out for whatever reason with the Patriots. Had some knee injuries. That's a worthwhile dart throw, I would say, especially at that particular position. Alden Tate was interesting because he's played a little bit with Cincinnati. He's a really big receiver. That news broke first that they were going to sign Alden Tate. And I thought, because he's so big, he's like 6'5", 230. I thought they were going to move him to flex tight end because they had worked out 2 tight ends. One of them was Dalton Keene. I forget the other one. And Alden Tate at the same time. And I thought, well, maybe they're looking at tight ends. Maybe they consider Alden Tate a tight end. So they sign him first, but then they get Keene as well. Tate's got some success in the NFL. He's caught some passes with Cincinnati. No, it doesn't hurt. Just keep churning till you find something.
Here was the only thing that surprised me about the churn. If they're going to do something, and again, all best of luck wishes to the two guys who are given their walking papers, Peagrine and Sinet. I hope they land somewhere else and their career flourishes. But yeah, they were redundant here in Philadelphia. It didn't make sense to have them here. There must not be not one return guy on the street in the National Football League right now.
Well, think about what Eagles fans think about Jalen Reagor, and Minnesota trades for Jalen Reagor because they don't have a stinking punt returner. There aren't a lot of returners.
Holy mackerel. Is that a lost art, Johnny Mack? I know that because of the rules in the National Football League, specifically kickoffs, more than anything, is it because the Chargers coach goes for it on 4th down every single time that people have now decided, well, we don't really need a punt returner anymore? Kids in college are going, well, I don't really need to work on catching punts because they don't need them in the NFL anymore. How is the land so barren?
Yeah, a little bit. Kick returner more than punt returner. There's Britton Covey returned a heck of a lot of punts at Utah. He can do it.
Yeah, but not enough for him to make the Eagles' regular 53-man roster.
No, but I mean, he's also 5'8", 160 pounds. So, I mean, that has something to do with it as well.
But are you the one who always tells me that things flow up to the National Football League? Then that should mean his 5'8" status and excellence in college should flow right up to the National
ultimately,
Football League.
now you have to have a baseline of sort of physical traits to play in the NFL. There's a lot of good college players who, don't hit that baseline. Reed Blankenship is an interesting guy to me. I just wrote about him yesterday. He's, he made this team, and Howie mentioned this, when they got him, he was a 5-year starter at Middle Tennessee State and, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. 5-year starter, and he showed up. Now, if you're a 5-year starter, Jody, in Tuscaloosa or South Bend or Columbus or Norman, wherever, you're going to be a first-round pick probably. At Middle Tennessee State, everybody's going to go, it's Middle Tennessee State. But I got news for you. He showed up here as so much more polished than the average young player, no matter where they're come from, where they are, because he played so much football. To me, he is a perfect example of what we always talk about on this show. Some people think we talk about it too much, about, practice and preparation and reps and live reps. And I've been talking about this going all the way back to the old World League, when quarterbacks like Brad Johnson and Kurt Warner and Jake Delhomme came out of there. And because that's such a high-profile position, people obviously recognize those names now, and they became legitimate starting quarterbacks. One of them, a Hall of Fame quarterback. Another one, a Super Bowl winner.
Winning, yeah.
And the other, and Jake Delhomme made a Super Bowl, didn't win it, but started a Super Bowl. So, when you play, it makes you better. And even if it's the World League, even if it's the CFL or the XFL or the USFL or Middle Tennessee State. Now, sometimes these guys don't have the physical traits to play at the NFL level. But if you can find that guy, Adam Thielen's a perfect example of this. If you can find that guy who has the physical traits and got overlooked for whatever reason by NFL scouts, and I think that might be the case. I think the Eagles might have lucked out with Reed Blankenship. He's so much more polished than guys who – Kayvon went to Clemson, right? He's so much more polished just from playing football, even at Middle Tennessee State. Anyway,
Well, then,
just throwing it out there.
If the Eagles judge via film work in the first half and what they expect and what they've crammed into Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for game number one. If he's not getting it done in the first half, is it Reed Blankenship to the rescue in the second half at safety for the Eagles?
I think it would be before Kayvon. So I mean, I don't think they're going to bench CJ. It would have to be really bad, like multiple blown coverages. And I don't think he's going to have multiple blown coverages. He's played too much football at the NFL level. So I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, right now, if you forced me to pick who would they play first, I think at safety, I think it would be Reed Blankenship. As crazy as that sounds.
All right, let me ask you this about the Lions, and we're hoping to get Tim Twentyman up here. I just reached out to him. He hasn't gotten a link yet, but hopefully we can get it to him before we're supposed to punch him up in about 10 minutes from now. I watch Hard Knocks. I haven't watched the 5th episode yet. I got busy yesterday, and I was planning on watching. I still haven't had the chance to be able to watch it. I hope that I can do so today, later in the day. Do you believe that they're going to be able to do anything offensively against this Eagles defense? I'm still in the wait and see mode about Gannon and how he's going to handle things and be able to do certain things. But does this Lion offense scare you at all coming into game number one?
It doesn't. I wouldn't say it scares me. And, one of the things I've been talking about, I think and we'll get to talk about this hopefully with Tim. I've been telling you, I think the best player on the Lions is their center, Frank Ragnow. And he wasn't there last year. He got hurt. I think it was week 4, week 5, somewhere in there. And he was out for the season. He's back, but now he's got a groin injury. So he was limited yesterday. I don't know if he's going to be able to play. We mentioned earlier Halapuli Baitai is also a starter for them. He's out. He was placed on injured reserve, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 games. So if they're missing 2 of their starters on the offensive line, that to me is the strength of their team when they're healthy. If Ragnow's there, Baitai's there, they also have Penei Sewell. He's got tremendous talent. Everybody remembers him. From the draft last year. Taylor Decker's a former first-round pick at tackle as well. And, even Jonah Jackson is a former third-round pick. So they do have some talent on the offensive line. And when you can block people, you can do some things in the NFL. But the Lions skill position people don't scare me at all. And that's one of the reasons they drafted Jameson Williams, but he's not healthy. He's not going to be able to he's not going to play, obviously, coming back from the torn ACL. So it's going to be a while before they get him in the lineup. And you start talking about DeAndre Swift, who is a Philly kid, so people know him. He's a good back, but he's not explosive. Jamal Williams, good back. He's not going to scare you. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably the best receiver. Usually in the NFL, think about week 2, right? Week 2, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are coming in. Usually when you're playing an NFL team, they have a better receiver than Amon-Ra Brown. And that's where the Lions hope to be with Jameson Williams. And maybe things change when he gets back. And because I think he's got a chance to be a really good player, but their skill position people don't scare me. Their best skill position player is probably TJ Hawkinson, the tight end.
I was going to say, is that not the biggest concern? Because, well, maybe it shouldn't be, because most people say that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's strength over anything else is his ability to cover, that he's a good cover guy. That's why he's playing in the slot for his previous team and why he's going to be playing safety for the Eagles. And they say that the 2 positions mirror each other. Is he going to get the assignment on Hawkinson more than anybody else?
Well, I think it's, there's a possibility of that. There's also a possibility of Kaiser White. I mean, that's why Kaiser is here. if you want a bigger body as well. So the Eagles have more options. They had, I get what you're saying, because the Eagles had a lot of difficulty with tight ends last year. And that's the reason Kaiser White is here, and that's the reason C.J. Gardner-Johnson is here. So, yeah, you're going to get Hutchinson's a very good tight end, but he's also not an explosive tight end. I think last year he had a ton of catches, probably 9-10 yards a catch. So, he might be the guy who's going to catch 9 balls for 80 yards or something. And that's probably what he did against the Eagles last year, something in that range. But doesn't scare me. That's the thing. I don't see many explosive options for the Lions, and that's a concern. And the Eagles will tell you, and Nick Sirianni talks about it constantly, Jonathan Gannon, they both talk about it constantly, turnovers, explosive plays. So how did the Lions generate explosive plays? I think that's going to be difficult for them.
And that's one of the things that I just don't have faith that the Lions are going to be able to do, no matter how popular they were, because they presented themselves well. Excuse me, on Hard Knocks. I just don't like their offense. And Jared Goff is not a playmaker. We're going to find out how big a playmaker Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Damn,
well, you're right. I mean, it's not, and that's what I said. It's not a scary offense. I'll put it that way. They have to do things methodically, and when you have to do things methodically, it's more difficult. If you got to go, that's the whole thought process of Jonathan Gannon's defense, Jody. Make somebody go 15 plays, 80 yards. It's a lot easier when you can create the 40-yard splash play, and all of a sudden, all right, we're in business. They're going to have a difficult time creating splash plays, and that kind of plays right into the Eagles' hands.
It does take a little doing for the Eagles coming up on game number 1 on Sunday versus the Lions. All right, we're going to take a quickie timeout, come back. We're hoping to get Tim Twentyman up. We're having trouble getting through to him and getting him the link so that he can hop aboard and join us. If he doesn't, John and I will continue to look ahead to week 1 versus the Detroit Lions. We've still got 40 minutes with you left here on this Thursday before the season gets underway edition of Birds 365.
Philadelphia fans, were cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
At Pondley Hockey, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, We've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lee Hockey a call.
You got Mack and Mack. McMullen and McDonald here with you on Bird 365, and we are joined by Tim Twentyman from the DetroitLions.com. He came on my national CBS radio show and did a great job giving me a preview for the upcoming Lions season. We're asking him to do the same again here today. Tim, Jody McDonald, and John McMullen. Thanks for hopping aboard, bud.
Hey, no problem. How you guys doing?
Our pleasure.
Doing well,
Thank
Tim.
you very much.
Just to warn you real quick before you jump in, Jody, the Eagles are paying very, very close attention to you and your reporting and your cohorts reporting. We're at CIA lockdown.
Oh,
so they watch and see everything, Tim. I'm just warning you.
That's all right. Hey, the more eyes, the better, right?
Yeah.
Exactly right. And one of the things that was a big topic of conversation with the Eagles yesterday, prior to practice and then into practice, after practice, was expectations. Jason Kelce tried to say blank expectations. Jalen Hurts, very similar. It only means you haven't achieved it yet. How about in Detroit? We've got some guys railing against it here in Philadelphia. I think they've done a nice job portraying the Lions on Hard Knocks, so it does give them a little bit of a national look. Have the expectations changed for the Lions since they showed up for camp?
Well, I think so. I mean, they're obviously not Eagles expectations where you're a playoff team last year and you're looking to now take that next step, win your division, and obviously be a force in the NFC like I think Philadelphia has a chance to do. For Detroit, look, it was a 3-win football team last year, right? Let's be honest about it. And it was the first year of the Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell regime. Now, I think they've improved their football team. I think the talent is a little bit better. I think the depth's better. But it's rare you go from 3 to 10 and you're talking about, being a contender in the NFC. I think for me and what the expectations for fans are after watching Hard Knocks, after seeing, the steps the offense has taken in training camp, how that defense has steadily improved. I think for me, it's let's play meaningful games in the month of December. Right. Around playoff time, they have that graphic, right? In the hunt, or you're in the playoffs. Be in that graphic, be in the conversation. And I think if Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes can do that in their second season, if you go from 3 wins to playing meaningful games and being right there for the playoffs in your second season, now I think you're on the right track.
Tim, when you look at this roster and you said the talent has improved, where do you look at the strengths and weaknesses? Where are they good? Where do they need help?
Yeah, well, I think offensively it starts up front, and unfortunately they're dealing with, a couple injuries here heading into that game Sunday. But, I think on paper that's a top 5 offensive line. You guys know about good offensive lines over there. Philly's got a really good one, but Detroit does too. I mean, Frank Ragnall's a Pro Bowler at center. Jonah Jackson's a Pro Bowler at left guard. Taylor Decker's consistently one of the 10 best tackles in the league, and Penei Sewell, the number 7 overall pick, he's trending in that direction, sooner rather than later. They lost to right guard Big V. He's not going to play. He's on IR, so he's going to miss the 4 games. And Frank Ragnall's dealing with a groin injury. We'll see how serious that is if he practices today. But that really is a strength. And I think, adding DJ Chark and what Amon-Ra St. Brown did at the end of last year, I think the receiver core is much, much improved. And, you add those guys along with a Pro Bowl tight end and TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. I think they've really got offensively some skilled position weapons that can be dangerous. The question is defense. And, this was a team that ranked in the, bottom third, really the bottom 3 of every major statistical category on defense last year. So they need improvements. You get Aiden Hutchinson. That's good. You get Jefferkuda back, who was the number 3 pick a couple of years ago, towards Achilles week 1 last year. They didn't have him. So yeah, I think offensively, you know what Detroit is, and you think they're going to be pretty good there. Really, it just comes down to that defense. And, as you guys showed last year when you ran for, 236 yards, touchdowns in that game, I think that's a great test week 1 for Detroit. How much improved is that defense? Because Philly's going to want to come in and do the same thing. Can Detroit stop it?
Let me ask you about a guy you mentioned more specifically, and that's Jefferkuda. Very high draft pick. I would say came in and was a disappointment. You add to that the major injury. He's back. He's healthy. How high do you have to set the bar for a guy like Okuda for the Lions to be able to say, all right, here's why we drafted him as high as we did, and he's living up to those expectations?
Well, I think he's got to be a quality, legit starting cornerback. They like what Amani Oruwariye did last year in his 3rd season. He was 3rd in the NFL with 6 interceptions. He kind of, excelled to that, number 1 cornerback type. Well, they drafted Jefferkuda to be that guy. Now he dealt with a core muscle injury. He only played 10 games as rookie, and then obviously the Achilles last year. But physically, speed-wise, strength, all that stuff, it's back for Jeff. I was talking to him last week. He said he's actually faster and stronger than he was pre-Achilles, which is sometimes rare, as you guys know, with that kind of injury. That can have lasting effects on guys. But he's looked really, really good. And, ever since the joint practices with Indianapolis the week before the last preseason game, week 2 of the preseason, he's looked really, really good. And look, he was the number 3 pick for a reason, right? He's got all the physical tools. And so about it with him, it's just, the best abilities, availability sometimes, right? And so that's his deal. But if he can stay healthy and he continues to have the camp that he had, Detroit thinks they have 2 pretty good starting, cornerbacks, and they'll obviously be tested this week against Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. So we'll see. There's going to be no walk before you run period for Jefferkuda. He's going to have to step in there and play good right away. He's had a good camp, so the expectations are high for him.
Yeah, and they also added Mike Hughes in that secondary. He's a former first-round pick that also hasn't lived up to expectations to date because of injuries, a lot of it. So there is some talent back there. But I want to talk about Aiden Hutchinson for a number of reasons. One, he's the number 2 overall pick in the draft, so obviously a lot is expected of him. I go back to when Nick Bosa came into this league with San Francisco, and it was eye-popping. He made such a difference. Is Aiden Hutchinson, is there that kind of potential there?
There is. Yeah, I think he's exceeded even the Lions' expectations. And I say that from an athletic standpoint. You do so much homework, but when they finally got him on the field and saw what he could do, they were even surprised athletically just how advanced he is. Look, he's got an advanced, toolbox of pass rush moves. He's got a motor that never quits. They've got a NASCAR package that they even use with him. They think he's so versatile that he can slip inside, play the 3-tech, and that allows them to get another, edge rusher out on the outside. And so, he's really become a 3-down kind of guy for them, where, he's obviously on the edge, rushing the passer, but then moves inside and gives them some rush from the interior as well. He really has been terrific. You guys saw him the Hard Knocks. He's stepped in. His teammates have accepted him. They love the work ethic. It's all, everybody says, great things about him. And you talk to the kid, he's humble. He says all the right things. He's got the right attitude. It's all about work. He just came in, he shut his mouth, he put his head down, and he went to work. And look, that's a Dan Campbell type of guy right there. And then, to perform as well as he has in the preseason and looked as good as he has in camp, I think the expectations are pretty high. I would really be surprised if he wasn't a double-digit sack guy as a rookie. And I know that's kind of lofty expectations, but I think he's been that good.
We were talking about it before we just punched up, Jeff, about whose responsibility it's going to be to cover TJ Hawkinson for the Eagles. And they've got a new safety that they just picked up, via trade before the season started, about 10 days to get up to speed, if that was going to be his number one responsibility of covering a guy like TJ Hawkinson. We think here in Philadelphia, we've got one of the best tight ends in football. We know you feel the same in Detroit. The other tight end, how much 12 personnel do the Lions use? Are they more a 3 wide receiver set team? Are they going to use 2 tight ends? What should the Eagles be on the look for? Now, well ahead of time, be noted, they're watching. The Eagles are watching us right now. So we know you're actually going against what the Eagles want their media to do by giving out trade secrets. I'm just asking your opinion.
Yeah.
What's the most likely setups that the Lions are going to be using Sunday against the Eagles?
There'll be multiple. I mean, that's what Ben Johnson, he's the new offensive coordinator. And you know, he was the tight ends coach before he was elevated to the pass game coordinator midseason last year. So obviously he knows that room better than anybody. And he knows TJ Hawkinson really well. You know, I think what TJ provides the Lions, we saw this in camp, is a little bit of versatility. You know, they'll stand him up. They'll put him in the slot. They put him out wide. You know, they like his ability to match up and run routes against a safety, like you said, or if they want to put a linebacker on him, good luck. So they're going to move him around a lot. I think you're probably going to see 11 more than 12, but again, you really don't know. It's week 1. We'll see what the game plan is. They like Brock Wright over, he's kind of their number 2 tight end, but more of a blocking guy coming out of Notre Dame. But when Hawkinson was hurt last year, he did show some things in the pass game. So they like the room. But yeah, I think they like that receiver core. I think they want to get those guys out on the field. DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot. You have TJ Hawkinson at tight end, and then DeAndre Swift in the backfield. Let's remember that DeAndre Swift was leading all running backs in receptions last year before he got hurt on Thanksgiving. So there's another weapon in the pass game. So now you've got 3 wide receivers you really like. You got Amon-Ra in the slot, who set the franchise record for 90 catches and 912 yards. Finished the season with 6 straight games with 8+ catches. That's your slot receiver. You got a Pro Bowler at tight end. You got DeAndre Swift, who was leading all running backs in receptions. And you like what you have on the outside with DJ Chark and re-signing Josh Reynolds. And they haven't even seen Jamison Williams, the number 12 pick. So
that's when it really takes off.
That's when it takes off. But they really like, I think, the combination of those 3 receivers, a tight end and a running back. And I think that really stresses the defense, because one of those guys is going to be single covered. And if it's Hawkinson, he might have himself a day. So, that's something that the Eagles are going to really have to figure out how they want to attack that.
All right, Tim, I want to talk to you about the third base for a couple of reasons. One, Dave Bipp, our old friend, is the special teams coordinator out with the Lions. And,
Dave's great.
Yeah, Dave is great. Deuce Staley, obviously, is out with the Lions as well. But the Eagles aren't very good at special teams. Everybody looks at the Eagles and they say, well, they added A.J. Brown on offense. They added all these pieces on defense, Jordan Davis, James Bradbury, Kaiser White, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, on and on and on. That's where those great expectations lie. The Eagles don't have a kick returner. They don't have a punt returner as of yet. They traded Jalen Reagor. They had a poor punting game. You guys know Aaron Cepas from training camp. That's where the Eagles found him. You had a Pro Bowl punter, and they sort of battled, and Cepas obviously lost out. How good are the Lions on special teams, and could that be sort of a surprise where they can sort of leap up in this game, maybe make a big play on special teams?
Well, look, Dan Campbell values special teams. I mean, he's almost like Harbaugh in that way. He's very involved in it. It's a big part of practice. There are multiple periods in practice with special teams at training camp, and they're long, and they spend a lot of time on it. And you mentioned Jack Fox, a Pro Bowl punter. They've got Khalif Raymond,
Khalif Raymond, yeah.
Khalif Raymond, he was the 4th best punt returner last year, averaged 11 yards per punt return. They were top 10 in the league in kickoff return. And the coverage units are really, really good. Those bottom roster spots for Dan Campbell, he talks about it all the time. He says those last 10 spots, special teams is the difference. It's not about, offense, defense. It's who gives me the most on special teams. They really value it. And look, as you guys know, I mean, how huge is a blocked kick, a blocked extra point? Ask what Florida State was.
Ask Green Bay last year.
I mean, that can the difference. Ask the Green Bay Packers, you know, in the playoffs last year, how valuable special teams are. They lost that game to San Francisco because of special teams. Those plays are so huge in the course of a game that, look, the Lions value it. They put resources into it, and they've got really good special teams. I think the special teams rankings, they were in the top. I can't remember where they finished. I think they might have been in the top 5 last year.
Yeah.
And
the Eagles were consistently a top 10 special when Dave was here.
Yeah, and Dave's great, and he's got a real good pulse on the roster and what guys can do, and they value it here. They feel it's important, and so they've been good at it. And you know, while the offense and defense struggled last year, that was the one thing that the Lions could hang their hat on, and they value it, so it's important.
All right, last year, Dave, week 8, the Eagles had lost a bunch of games in a row, and then they went into Detroit. And they kind of took it out on the Lions, 44-6, and a new Eagle team was basically born, one that was going to go heavy on the run. They did, made it successful, ended up making the playoffs. We would look at it from the Eagle point of view, which is that was the turning round of the season. The Lions had struggled before, they struggled after. It wasn't as big a turning point of the year, but 44-6 and 44-6. Is Campbell talked about that at all this week? Is that something he's using as motivation, or that was so toxic we don't even refer to it in its locker room come 2022?
No, they've talked about it. And look, it was 236 rushing yards, a 5.1 average, 4 touchdowns. Look, the Eagles came in and did whatever they wanted to Detroit, and it was embarrassing. And Dan Campbell called it as much. Some players have said that. And actually, though, it's a good thing in a way, you know, obviously, because it spurred some changes. You know, that was the game. The Lions were on their bye the following week. That's when Dan Campbell took over play calling from Anthony Lynn. That's when they elevated Ben Johnson to the pass game coordinator. That's when they changed some things up defensively. And then you saw down the stretch, they were better, you know, 3-3. They, you know, won some games, were in some close games, and you know, offensively, they looked a ton better. And now Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator. So it did help some things. It spurred some change, which ended up being good change. But again, it was embarrassing. And the Lions have, you know, talked about that this week, that look, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm going to come in and have the same game plan. Why not? Let's prove that Detroit that we can stop it. And so it's been talked about. Now, obviously, every year is so different. As you guys know, the roster changes over 33%, whatever it is. It's a different team. A third of the guys don't even know about that game. They weren't here. But for those that were here, it was embarrassing. It has been discussed, and the Lions want to make sure that that certainly doesn't happen again, and maybe throw a little bit of revenge over Philadelphia's way, ruin the start of their season.
Well, Tim, one of the issues with the Lions, and I bring this up to Jody, so I want you to tell Jody, we talked about the offensive line at the start, how good a player Frank Ragnow is. I think he got injured week 4 or week 5 last year, so he wasn't there. Now the Lions weren't winning games. I don't want to overstate it, but that's one of the best centers in football. Now it perked my ears up when he's not healthy. So if he's not able to go, and you don't have Halapuli Bati, who we're very familiar with here in Philadelphia,
right?
Another starter, that's pretty drastic for week 1. How realistic is it that Frank Ragnow may not play, or is he going to be out there? Do you have a feel for that yet?
I think we just got to see today. You know, today they got afternoon practice, so obviously the injury report will come. I think if Frank's not practicing on a Thursday, that's not a great sign. If he's out there, I think that's a great sign. So really, it's just going to I'm on a wait and see until practice type of deal with him, just because I know Frank and I know how tough he is. And if he's not practicing on a Thursday before week 1 with the Eagles and that defensive line and what they did to them last year, and I know Frank wasn't there, you mentioned that, but you know, there's some pride with those guys. They think they're, you know, one of the better units in football. And this is a great opportunity to prove that against a really, really good Eagles defensive front. So if Frank's not out there, then he's hurting. So guys, it's really kind of just a wait and see for me today. I think just, you know, people in Philadelphia just check the injury report. You know, coaches always say that, but that's legit what it is today, because that kind of that was a new thing that came about yesterday. So I don't know if he did that during practice yesterday or something that's more recent, but it isn't something he's been dealing with through camp. Let's just put it that way. So it's kind of a newer thing. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see if he practices on Thursday.
Tim, I want to get your feel on Lion Nation, if there is such a thing, because I host shows here in Philadelphia on the radio, much like my national show. And every once in a while I'll get a call from an Eagle fan and go, these last 4 years have been so difficult. Excuse me? Because they've made the playoffs 3 out of 4. All right, they won a Super Bowl in 2017, but 18, 19, 20, 21. So difficult to deal with after living on the top of the mountain. And then you have the Lions. And you talk about a fan base that stands behind its team. The Lions have given their fans very little to cheer about over the last couple years, couple decades, their entire existence. It's been a long time since the Lions have been real good. I'm giving them a lot of credit here. Am I doing them justice? Should they get the credit? I see it's a sellout for week 1. They're selling standing room only tickets now.
How many Eagles fans are going to be there, though, Tim? How many Eagles fans are expected?
There'll be some Eagles fans there, but I'll tell you this: it is a passionate group, and you talked about it. Look, they haven't given them a lot to be passionate about, but still, every year they come. Every year is the year, and I just can't imagine, guys. You went through it in 2017, what that Super Bowl parade, looked like in Philly. But look, Detroit's, one of the few teams that's never even been to the Super Bowl before. Right. They haven't won a playoff game since '91. It's been a long time, right? And so they're just so hungry for some success. And if Dan Campbell can provide it, if this team can get off to a good start, if they can become consistent, the atmosphere here, the atmosphere at Ford Field, just out on the street in Detroit will be so electric because, like you said, it is a very passionate group. Every year they come back. They want this team to win. And if this team gives them something, I just hope I'm around for it because it'll be really right?
Well, I think everybody in the NFC North is just waiting and waiting. And waiting for Aaron Rodgers to retire. Aaron was out there chirping again about everybody says it's their year. And then here comes Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay's got 13 wins. So it's been difficult for the NFC North as a whole. But we've had you for a while. We haven't talked about the quarterback. I mean, Jared Goff. Where are the lines with Jared Goff? What is the thought process with him? I think, around the league, I think the belief he's not the long-term guy, but they haven't been able to be in a position to get somebody better. What is the in-house thought process on Jared Goff?
Well, this is a big year for Jared Goff. I think this is the year where you'll find out if Jared Goff is the long-term solution. Look, Ben Johnson's the new offensive coordinator. He sat down with Jared Goff in the offseason, and they built this entire Lions scheme off things that Jared Goff likes, off things he did really well when in 17, 18, when he was a Pro Bowler with the Rams. And they've kind of built this thing just to give Goff some ownership of it. And look, Goff loves it. He's really confident. He's had a great training camp. And look, once Ben was elevated last year after the Eagles game, Jared Goff was, 3-2-1 with 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 101.6 passer rating. That passer rating was 6th best in the NFL the second half of last year. And that was before some of the weapons that they get. We talked about TJ Hawkinson. That was without TJ. He was hurt. They didn't have DJ Chark. They didn't have Swift for 5 of those games. Now he's got all those weapons. He's got this offensive line, hopefully, at least, 4/5 of it, you hope. But he's been really good in camp. He loves this offense. It's built around him. They went out and got him weapons. And so, look, there's no excuses, right? I mean, he's got an offensive line, a tight end, a run game, a wide receiver core. They're going to get J-Mo back. They've done everything to help Jared Goff be successful. And so if Jared Goff isn't successful, then you probably know that, hey, we're going to go a different route. But let's also remember Jared Goff's 27 years old. He's been in the league a long time, still a really young guy. right? Look, he's taken a team to a Super Bowl. He's won big playoff games. He's had success in this league. And so the Lions are hoping with what they've done to kind of tailor the offense around him and the weapons that they provided him, that he can pick up, right where he left off last year. And this offense can be good. And now we are talking about Jared Goff. Maybe it's a long-term solution, but really it's on Jared Goff. This is the year. There's no excuses. He's got the weapons. He's got the line. Everything is provided around him. So now he's got to perform, or they'll have to make decisions afterward. But I would expect Jared Goff to have a pretty good year. And he's been really, really crisp in camp. He's been strong. He has picked up right where he left off, and I would expect him to be pretty good. And big test for him week 1. We'll see.
And pardon me if I'm looking at the dark side of life, and if he turns his ankle on the third play of the game, is the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld ready to step in and run that Lion offense?
Yeah. No, that's a good point by you, because that is one of the areas where at least, myself, I think fans have also looked at, there's not, they haven't drafted that guy, right? They didn't go get a veteran guy, a $5 million backup that can step in and, has experience winning games. And so that is an area where they do not have depth. They cannot have an injury to Jared Goff. Look, Nate Sudfeld just got here. I haven't seen a lot of them. So, but look, you have, but he was a backup, right? You're a backup for a reason, right?
He was a backup in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You hope you never see that guy, and if you do, he can win you a game or two. And look, the Lions didn't have that when Jared Goff missed some time with a rib injury last year. Tim Boyle was 0-3. David Blau, who was here competing with Tim, was 0-5 and 19 when he filled in for Stafford. So they've really never had that guy that they've spent resources on, a fairly high draft pick. So look, nothing can happen to Jared Goff. That's certainly the rule of thumb here in Detroit. Somebody's got to walk around with a bubble around him or something. Can't slip down the stairs, can't get hurt, because that is one area where the Lions, I think, have some issues if something happens to Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, they're not the only team. I mean, there's a lot of teams that would be sunk if they lose their number one quarterback. He is Tim Twentyman at T Twentyman on Twitter. Read him at DetroitLions.com. And pay attention to that injury report, Eagles fans, especially Frank Ragnow. I do want to end another Eagles sort of, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Alden McNeil, I want to know how he's doing. He was there was a kerfuffle in the Eagles draft room that was televised live, where Tom Donahue, who was now gone from the organization, maybe due to this kerfuffle, by the way,
that's strong.
Yeah. He wanted Alden McNeil, and the Eagles went with Milton Williams, more of a pass rushing 3-technique defensive tackle. So anyway, got a little bit of play here in Philadelphia. I was wondering for an update on how McNeil is doing with the Lions.
Yeah, he was really good as a rookie. He was I think the Pro Football Focus all rookie team. Really strong, athletic guy inside. And interestingly, he played nose almost probably 95% of the time last year. And they've actually moved him out to the 3-tech some. And they plan to be a little bit versatile with him because they think he's so athletic. I mean, here's a guy who used to play running back and he used to play outfield in baseball, high school baseball. Imagine that guy roaming the outfield, but he's that athletic. He's a big, large, strong man, but he is athletic, and they think he can give them a little bit of pass rush prowess from the interior. So, they're moving him around a little bit. He had a good rookie year. You guys know just as well as me that usually the biggest leap a player takes is from that first year to second year, when the game slows down and they get comfortable. And, they like where the trajectory Alim's on. They're going to move him around a little bit, and they think, he can be a force inside. And when you pair that with Aiden Hutchinson on the outside and Charles Harris, who had 7.5 sacks last year, Michael Brockers is a vet guy. That's one area where the Lions on the defensive side of the ball feel pretty good about. They got questions about linebacker. We talked about the secondary. There's questions there, but the defensive line and Alim being part of that, that's one area the Lions really think they got something defensively.
All right, Timmy, last thing, and again, we're asking for some state secrets here, which are kept well under wraps in Philadelphia, but might be available in Detroit. If a big play is made by Rodrigo on defense, will they be blaring salsa movement in the music in the stadium on Sunday? Because to me, that was as big a highlight in Hard Knocks as anything else. That kid can dance. He can play football too, but he can dance. Will that become a Detroit Lion thing on Sundays this year?
Oh, I think they got to come up with something, right? They got to come up with some kind of salsa something. And look, after the last Hard Knocks episode, if he becomes really good, if he becomes a guy that becomes a staple on that defense, look, cowboy hats and cowboy boots might make a return in Detroit. You just don't know. So, but I would expect he's become kind of a face of that defense, at least a young one, with how he's played. Look, a 6th-round draft pick who I expect him to start Sunday and play lunch. He's been that good. And so, I'd love to maybe see him get a sack, see what that celebration dance is, see if he incorporates that into the dance, and then the stadium guys can get the music keyed up to it. I think that'd be good. I like where you're at there. I'm going to suggest that to the stadium guys.
There you go. And that's something I think we can share ahead of time. That doesn't need to be kept under wraps. Timmy, good stuff. We appreciate greatly your coming on. Thank you very much. Have a good season. John may see you in the press box on Sunday. Thanks for jumping on today.
Sounds good. Safe travels, John.
Thanks,
Tim. That is Tim Twentyman from DetroitLions.com. Like I said, did a really nice job previewing the Lions for me on my radio show. I thought he'd be good for us. I think I was correct. We appreciate Tim jumping aboard here with us on Birds 365. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, you know what we got to do. Put a bow on the show. Come back next.
My wife was in an accident that changed our lives forever. She was in rehabilitation for years. She had to learn to walk again. She couldn't take care of herself. We couldn't afford a nurse. We were running out of options. One conversation with Pond Lee Hockey changed everything. They understood what we were going through and immediately helped us navigate the legal process. We can't thank them enough.
Pond Lee Hockey. Tell us your story.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
It's the #1 news at 10 p.m. Action News on PHL 17. Join Shari Williams, Gray Hall, Deuces Rogers, and meteorologist Adam Joseph for all the big stories at a time that's right for you. Action News at 10 p.m. on PHL 17.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
Welcome to Pond Lee Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lee Hockey a call.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Mack Birds 365 guys. coming down the home stretch here. Thank Tim Twentyman for hopping on board, and Glenn Mack now giving us a look ahead to not only, in Glenn's case, the Sunday game against the Lions, but the entire season. So I want to double down and finish on that with you, Johnny Mack. Do you have the Eagles schedule handy?
No, but I can pop it up.
Can you pop that up for me quickly? Because I have a first half specific Eagles question for you. We'll wait for tomorrow to look at the second half before we preview the entire season. But first half Eagles schedule, what home game scares you the most? The team that can come in and beat the Eagles on their own turf.
Are we talking about, I would say probably, the Cowboys and Vikings. I'm wavering. I guess the Cowboys. I don't know what Minnesota's going to be, but I do look at Minnesota's skill talent. Like I just talked about the skill talent, which Tim talked it up. Look, I mean, they don't have Jefferson. They don't have Thielen. They don't have KJ Osborne, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook. Minnesota has a lot of skill position talent, but Dallas is the rival. Dallas is the team the Eagles have to overcome. So I would lean towards Dallas.
The first 8 games, for those of you who don't have the Eagles in schedule in front of you, the Eagles play 4 home games, 4 road games. So that's your first half. And the 4 home games are the Jaguars, the Steelers, who are going to, I think, still be figuring out. As a matter of fact, it may be the last of Mitch Trubisky when the Steelers come in here. If the Eagles
beat
down on
the
Steelers
that yesterday,
the next week is the bye week, and that could be the change to the Steelers. So, and Dallas and Minnesota. The Vikings actually scare me more than the Cowboys do. I think that the Vikings offense could present some issues for the Eagles defense.
They don't have a good offensive line, though. That plays into it as well. They've had skill position talent for years now, and they just have had a bad offensive line. Now it's getting better. They got Darrisaw, who looks like he's going to be a player at left tackle. He was a first-round pick last year. But their center is terrible, Garrett Bradbury. Their right guard, they're playing a rookie. So they do have that skill position. And that's why I say Minnesota is one of those teams that I think could be really good if things fit. And the coaching is part of that as well, because they have a rookie head coach, or they could be bad. They could be really bad. It could go both directions.
How do you like that Cowboy offensive line?
Good point.
They got Jason Peters plugging in. How good could they be?
But they do still have a Hall of Fame player. I mean, Zach Martin's one of the best.
Martin's very good. My favorite Martin. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame player. So
you really
you're
think
right.
So?
Oh, Zach Martin?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
First
ballot,
that.
no doubt.
I think he's very good. I don't know about a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You think he's a better offensive lineman, Jason Kelce?
Oh yeah. No,
really?
Yeah, not even close. That's it. That's Eagles glasses there. I'm gonna look up Zach real quick. Zach is, I mean, he's 7-time All-Pro, not Pro Bowler. All pro. I mean, he's all decade kind of guy.
Okay.
He's already made one all day. He actually already has. He's on the 2010 all decades team. Yeah. He's a great player. One of the best offensive linemen of this generation, in the conversation for being the best.
Fair enough.
He's tremendous.
I think the Eagles can win all 4 of their home games in the first half of the season. Second half gets a little tougher. You know, I've got the Eagles. I moved to 12 yesterday, John, from 11. Had been sitting at 11 all off season, and I got to 12. I think the 12-game winning season will include a 3-game losing streak. That's not easy to do.
That's
to win
not
12
easy to
games
do.
and lose 3 in a row.
Yeah.
I got them losing 3 in a row in November. So prior to is going to be real good. Finishing off is going to be real good. They got a tough November ahead. We'll get into this more tomorrow. Partner, you got more Eagle duties today?
Yeah, heading down there as soon as I get off with you, Jody.
Sounds good. We know we're going to have game day crats tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to lock it down with them today, but I would think so.
All right, Eddie K will be with us, and we'll figure out another guest for you. Yeah, we're going to get officially on the record. I don't think I'm going to change. I think I'm staying at 12-5, but we'll make Johnny Mack give us his hard and fast number and how far the Eagles will get in the playoffs. We appreciated everybody who streamed in today. Like, share, and subscribe before you get out of Dodge. You got our buddy Rick Saratella coming up next. John McMullen, Jordy McDonald. Be back tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.